We all know that there's a good deal of political polarization in America, and it's often deplored as a bad thing. Wouldn't it be great if Americans could come together? But what is the way to respond to the polarization? Well, it turns out that there's a group of people, and one or two on the Democratic side and two or three on the Republican side, and they've decided that the solution is a new party, a third party, a centrist party that they call the forward political party. Well, it's kind of a weird name, first of all, and
sounds a little socialist to me.
Debbie doesn't like it. She goes, it sounds, well, I mean, forward sounds a little bit like progressive. It sounds a little bit like, but I suppose what they would say is we're trying to find a way forward out of the polarization. Now, who's involved? Andrew Yang. Now, Andrew Yang is the tech nerd who ran for office. I think he ran for New York, and then he ran for mayor in 2021. And then he said, that's it, I'm out of the Democratic Party. Now, that by itself is a good thing, but evidently Yang thinks that there is space for a new party, and he's joined by some Republicans, although these are kind of has-been former old establishment type of Republicans who are part of the George H.W. Bush administration or the George W. Bush administration. So there is one guy who was part of the Trump administration, Miles Taylor, a former Homeland Security official. Whoa. And then David Jolly, a former Republican congressman, Christine Todd Whitman, a former Republican governor. Notice the common theme here, it's former. These are basically people who have lost office, can't really gain much traction. It seems like time has passed them by. They have no real constituency. So I think they kind of feel like if you put, a bunch of losers together, you might get a winner by loser plus loser plus loser equals winner. But generally, loser plus loser plus loser equals three losers. So it generally doesn't really work that way. I think the deeper point is really this, and that is that when you have a situation in the country where the two parties are pulling in opposite directions in terms of their destination. I mean, very simply, one party is for restricting and limiting abortion. The other party is for celebrating and promoting it. So is there really kind of a, quote, middle ground? Isn't the middle ground precisely what we have now, which is to say, let states decide for themselves how they want to handle the issue? That is the middle ground. That's allowing local values to determine how each state deals with the issues. And so this notion that, and I think there's a certain part of Americans that thinks like this. Well, it's just a pity that the sides are so much at loggerheads. I just wish that they would all sit down and figure out what's best for the country. Well, this kind of boilerplate kind of repels me because, of course, the underlying assumption is that there is a single thing that's best for the country, whereas the problem is that the two sides radically disagree over what is best for the country. The Democrats want a very different America than we do. So if we're the party, let's just say, of moral principles, and they're the party of moral degeneracy, what's the centrist position? Let's have some degeneracy, but just not as much as the Democrats want. Let's try to, or if we're the party of the founding and the Democrats are the party of, let's say, ripping up the Constitution and throwing it aside for essentially what they want to do right now, what's the centrist position? Well, let's have a kind of moderate respect for the Constitution, and in some cases show fidelity to it, but in other cases it's totally fine to rip it up. I mean, part of what we have is we have a new idea for a party. We don't even have a new party yet, but it doesn't have any platform. It's not spelled out what this party even wants. My guess is there will be an effort to sort of take party positions from both sides and find some artificial middle ground. Look, America's always been, I mean, really going all the way back to the beginning, a country defined by two parties, which is not to say that parties haven't become obsolete. It's not to say that parties haven't disappeared. The Whig Party, where is it now? It's gone. but it was replaced by the Republican Party. Notice that the Republican Party was not a third party. The Republican Party supplanted the Whig Party, which went away. And then we were back to a two-party system. And the same thing happened earlier with Jefferson's Democratic Republican Party. It essentially split into two parties, originally the Democrats and the Whigs, and then later, of course, the Democrats and the Republicans. It was Abraham Lincoln, I think, who made the very deep point that you compromise you compromise as much as you can, and then you don't compromise any further. Lincoln compromised. He said, look, we're not going to try to stop slavery in the States. We recognize that the founders made a kind of constitutional pact, and we're going to abide by that pact. We're going to restrict slavery from spreading to the territories. But on that issue, we are inflexible. We are going to tolerate no effort to dilute or deprive us of the platform that we ran on and won on. And so I think this is a pretty good approach for the Republican Party. You compromise on things in order to get things done. You're pragmatic in that sense, but you're pragmatic up to a point. On the core principle that explains why you're a conservative, why you're a Republican, you don't compromise at all.